Ever found yourself in a presentation or in a meeting and realised that you've got a couple of go-to gestures? For example, the expanding tray, or the rainbow, or perhaps the push the air out. Now, if that's true for you, you're going to love this video because I'm going to give you 4 very simple, illustrative gestures that make you look and sound more interesting. But more than that, people will understand what you're saying, even if it's really technical and they're not, at a much deeper level. Ready? Let's go. Hi, my name is Frankie Kemp and I help specialists in tech communicate up, down and around their organisations so that they are much less vanilla and much more thriller. There are 4 gestures that are going to help you to communicate your ideas at a much deeper level than if you weren't to use gestures or you were to use them unintentionally. I've spoken before, and I will attach the video to this, about how movement is a second channel of communication for your audience. So you're really missing a very important trick by not using gestures. In 2016, researchers Kang and Tversky wanted to explore whether students from non-engineering backgrounds would understand mechanical concepts better if gestures were used. So there were a couple of videos made with lecturers explaining the internal workings of an engine, and what they realised was this. When structural gestures were used, that is structural gestures, which I'll show you soon, these helped people who were not familiar with concepts understand these concepts at such a deep level that they were able to replicate the workings of this mechanical concept just by simply drawing it because of the use of structural gestures. So these are a particular set of gestures that help others to understand the interrelationship of things. Now, if you use these structural gestures, not only do they help technical concepts to come across to other technical people because you can see it, but it even works with those who are not familiar with what you're describing. So now you want to know, what are those 4 gestures that will really help me to be clearer with those to whom I'm speaking? Well, I'm going to show you. Gesture number 1, very simple, counting. So you could say point number 1, and you don't need to keep your fingers there. You can then talk about point number 1 and then point number 2. A little word about counting. I would usually say this at the beginning. I'm going to discuss 3 points, first, second, third. Don't use it if you're giving a presentation during the body of the presentation, because you'll say my first point, my second point, and then you'll forget and you'll go my 5th point, and some smartass from the audience will start shouting, no, that's your 3rd point, because they've got a little abacus and they've been keeping count. So don't do that, but do the counting if you're doing the roadmap at the beginning, which is I'm going to talk about this, this and this, or there are 3 specific points you need to remember. So that's counting. The next one is the ladder, ideal for when you're describing a process, especially if that process is a step which is totally dependent upon the completion of the previous one. You can say the first step is this. You do not need to keep your hand there. You can move it away, describe that step, and then you go on to the next one. The alternative version is the to-do list, where you do exactly the same thing but mark it down. Some people see it as a ladder, ascending, and others see it as a descending to-do list. Okay, I'm just going to interrupt myself here. Press subscribe right now and I'll keep you in the loop as soon as a video comes out. You don't want to miss any of them. They're brilliant for your communication. Click subscribe right now. The third one is boxing, and this is ideal for when you have independent aspects. For example, we looked at the venue, the car parks, and the factory. Boxing. The last one is anchoring. With anchoring, you're looking at contrasting elements. For example, if I'm talking about the competitor, I might be over here, but if I'm talking about us, over there. If I'm talking back again about the competitor, I can do this, us over here. Then as soon as I do that movement, my listeners will know exactly what I'm about to talk about, the competitor. And then when I do that, they've already preempted the subject. Now, this is extremely useful if you're speaking off the cuff, because it helps you firstly demark as you're going on, but it keeps your audience with you. I say the word audience and I use this very loosely. You could be doing this on virtual calls, in presentations, at any time you need to explain something to anybody. And all of these movements can be done virtually. Let's recap. The 4 movements. Recap. We had counting, the ladder for process, and that can also go down as a to-do list. Then we had boxing, and lastly, anchoring. You don't have to wait for a keynote or a high-stakes negotiation to use any of these techniques. You can use them at home or socially in any non-work as well as a work situation where you need people to understand with more clarity what you're talking about. So if you want people to get what you say, begin using these gestures to make your message clearer.